On this episode of Locked On Angels, with the day off yesterday, we paused and we looked at the current standing of this team, and we asked this question. What do the numbers tell us about our Halos? Plus, the Angels should sign this veteran reliever for the bullpen, and Caden Dana is getting better, and we're going to tell you how. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
Happy Tuesday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
A day without Angels baseball. Usually we're like, oh, finally. But man, I miss watching them. Yesterday, it felt odd. I didn't know what to do with myself, Mike. I didn't know what I should be doing. Well, I'd taken care of the baby. That's what I was doing. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Hey, it's our fourth season here as a host of Locked On Angels. We're here 5 days a week talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, Caden Dana. Did he make this improvement that really, really, really needs to happen? Well, we're going to talk about what he did and what we've seen from him as he's starting for the Salt Lake Bees. There's a veteran reliever out there, Michael, and he's still unsigned. And considering what happened with Ben Joyce and bringing up Michael Darrell Hicks, should the Angels pursue this veteran arm? But first, with the off day yesterday, as I mentioned, let's check in and see where the Halos stand by the numbers so far. Let's get into it.
Yeah, buckle up, nerds, because we got a lot of numbers to throw at you. So first thing we want to point out is that the Halos entering into Tuesday, they were 9-6. They tied for the best record in the AL. So that's exciting, right? I know it's still early. Yeah. But it's awesome that they're 9-6. They haven't been under 500 since March 27th when they lost their first game of the year to the White Sox. And then they've come back from that. And speaking of comebacks, Johnny, 5 of their 9 wins have been of the comeback variety. Mm-hmm. They are 7-5 on the road and 2-1 at home. Thank you, schedule makers, for keeping the Angels out on the road.
Yeah, no kidding.
To start this season. Ridiculous. John, they have a negative run differential of 3, 75 runs scored versus 78 runs allowed. They were 3-1 in March. So far, they're 6-5 in April, 2-0 in extra inning games, 4-1 in one-run games, and they're 2-3 in blowout games when they've had a 5+ run lead or the other team has had a 5+ run lead. That's easy for me to say. 5+ run lead. There it is.
Yeah, for either them or the Halos, 2-3 in those blowout games. Mike, those numbers, I want to ask the question, what do the numbers say? What do they tell us as everydayers and watchers of this team? 7-5 on the road, 2-1 at home, 9-6 overall. Hey, let's not bury the lead. Still first place in the AL West, which is great to see. The negative run differential came from those blow-up games that they had against the Astros. And that's unfortunate because at one point they were +9, and that was after the Rays had a blow-up game against the Angels. The Angels were able to have a positive run differential. But here's what jumps out to me. 2-0 in extra inning games. Mm-hmm. We know that those both came against the Cardinals in St. Louis. They were hard-fought victories, and they were able to win those games that you and I said multiple times. Lots of fans of this team and everydayer said they don't win those a year ago. And I think I even said that with JD of Locked On Cardinals. They don't win those games a year ago or even the past 5 years. So that's key there as well. 4-1 in one-run games. Michael, what does that tell you about this team?
That tells me that these Angels are in it. and they're not just in it and having a lot of fight. They've got grit. Grit is different than fight. Fight is, yeah, we're in it, but we didn't win it, right? Grit is, we're going to find a way to get a victory here. And you have to, as a good team, you have to have a winning record in one-run games. And so this team has not been great over the last 10 years when it's been a one-run game. So the fact that they're 4-1 so far is a good sign. It's a good sign that their starting pitching have kept them in the games, that their bullpen hasn't blown the games. And those things are indications that the Angels are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it also explains the negative run differential when you think about the fact that they're winning tight ball games. It's not going to be a huge run differential, but it is good that they're 4-1 in those situations. 2-3 in blowout games, 5+ run lead. That's going to explain a lot when it comes to, they're either in it or they're completely out of it, right?
Yeah. So here's what I found in those numbers, though, John. In blowout games, the run differential is only 9 runs.
Yeah.
30 runs for the Halos, 39 for the opponent. So it's not like it's 20-40 or it's not like it's 10-50. It's just about 9-run difference because of some of the big blowout games that we've had so far this season. But the Angels haven't been blown out. They've had a lot of tight games, close games. Again, 4-1 in those one-run games, 2-3 in those blowout games.
Let's talk about the team rankings so far. Offense-wise, they coming into Monday, they were first in home runs with 30 for their at-bat per home run average. I should say the average home run per at-bat is 17.7. So
yeah,
I guess you could say, I don't know, every 17 at bats, you're going to get a home run there. They're first in that. They're second in slugging percentage at 454. Barrels per plate appearance, 7.7%. That's second in the league. OPS 756 across the whole team. That's good for 6th. And then runs scored, they're 75th, tied for 7th with San Francisco. That tells me a lot about this offense, and especially that slugging percentage. Like, they're obviously they're hitting a lot of home runs, but they're also hitting stuff into the gap. But predominantly, that's going to be a lot of home runs. OPS is interesting too because that's on base plus slugging, and so the slugging there is carrying a lot of that weight. When you think about it, it's probably 302 on base percentage and a 454 slugging adds up to 756 OPS. That 302 on base could be a little bit better. And we have spoken about the Angels needing to, be more frenetic with their hitting and be more connective from at bat to at bat and have guys on base for when you hit something into the gap or for when you hit a home run. So very interesting stuff from the offensive side. What about the pitching side?
Yeah, pitching, their FIP, field independent pitching, like that's what they can control. It's 5.18. They rank last, John, and that's a big stat. Now, some of that has to do with the blowout games, but in some of those games where they've been close, their FIP hasn't been great. Again, we said this yesterday to pay attention to that. Their ERA is 4.87. They're 26th in the league. Their WHIP, 1.38, 23rd in the league. Strikeouts, 113, 27th in the league. Their batting average against, 242. They're tied for 20th in the league with the Phillies. And their strikeouts to walks percentage is 1.74, which is 29th in the league. So, Johnny, couple thoughts on offense and couple thoughts on defense. First of all, I love the offensive numbers. I think they're fantastic, right? And we're going to get into some of the specifics and some of the details for certain players. But, John, what I loved about this team in the first few games and the first 2 series is they weren't slugging their way to victories. They were productive in their way towards a victory. And that's the thing that we haven't seen too much of in the last couple of games. I think it's one of the reasons why they did lose to the Astros. So I love these numbers. Don't get me wrong. Love that they're leading the league in home runs, but I would rather see them lead the league in sacrifice flies. I would rather see them lead the league in average with runners in scoring position, right? I would rather see those because those are indications that they are being gritty in those moments and they're rising to the occasion.
Well, and the way we started out this season was, oh, Trout, look at his average. He's doing terrible, but his on base is high because he's taking walks, and then he's getting sacrificed. He's got like 9 RBIs because he's doing sacrifice flies and, getting the RBIs that he needs to when he's hitting well. So the script has flipped, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, what's wrong with Trout? And now everybody's hitting home runs, and it's not enough still. And to be truthful, the solo home runs are not enough. We're going to need to see more guys on base for that sort of thing. The pitching makes total sense to me, Mike.
Yeah.
The walks and hits per innings pitch, 1.38. They're letting guys on base. The K to strikeout, or the walk to strikeout ratio, 1.74, 29th in the league, makes a lot of sense. And so it's going to be that way when they have pitch to contact guys. It's going to be that way when you give up a ton of walks like Tyler Anderson has done and Jack Ohanowitz did the other night, Kyle Hendricks did the other day. That's going to inflate those numbers. And so that's why that fielding independent pitching is so high, because that's what they can control. They can control the home runs, they can control the walks, and they can control the hit by pitches. And because of how much they're walking guys, that's going to be a really big problem and something that they're going to have to work on. As for the individual players, this is the Angels leaderboard through April 14th. You're going to hear the same player over and over again, by the way. FanGraphs WAR leaders, Kyron Paris leads the team with 1.3 FanGraphs WAR. O'Hoppe is behind him with 0.6. Nolan Shonowell is behind him with 0.4. Weighted runs created plus. This tells you how much of a percent over 100 or under 100 a player is better than league average. Kyron Paris, 266 WRC plus, 166% better than the league average hitter right now. O'Hoppe's at 190. Nolan Shonowell is at 144. So that's a pretty significant number there. How about on-base percentage, Mike? Kyron Paris doesn't qualify yet because of the number of at-bats he's had. However, he's leading the league, so to speak. He's first in MLB with 1.309 OPS. O'Hoppe's behind him with a 1.014 OPS. Shonowell has an 856 OPS. Regarding on-base percentage, Paris is up there with 467. Yoan Moncada, who I do miss because of his ability to take the walk,
right,
370, and then Nolan Shonowell at 365. Finally, let's go to slugging percentage on that stat line. Kyron Paris, again, doesn't qualify, but he is first in Major League Baseball with an 842 slugging percentage.
That's ridiculous.
O'Hoppe's got a 667, and Mike Trout has a 536 slugging percentage. Mike, Kyron's in this lineup from now on, right? There's no debate at this point.
Yeah. I think when they moved him to second base, I think maybe Perry had a conversation with Ron, or maybe Ron decided, like, I can't be a stick in the mud when it when it comes to this situation. And so I think moving forward, if Paris isn't in this lineup when Neto comes back, there has to be some reconsideration. Even when Moncada comes back, there has to be some reconsideration for this lineup. He's got to be in there, second base, outfield, somewhere, because his bat is that unique to this lineup, and you got to give him opportunities. And guys, proven himself. And that's the thing. You want guys to make it really uncomfortable. And so Kyron Paris has done that so far this season.
Yeah. Regarding home runs, entering Monday, Trout had been tied for the major league lead with 6. Ward, O'Hoppe, Paris are tied for second on the team with 5. Soler has 4. There's 4 20 home run guys in the lineup last year, and now we have the additional power of Trout actually being there, Kyron Paris being a surprise, Jorge Soler doing what he always does. I love what Locked On Everydayer Dwayne Taketo wrote. He said, I just hope the 16 strikeouts against Hayden Wesneski the other day isn't the result of being the home run leaders getting in their heads and swinging for the fences every time or waiting for fastballs. The situational hitting had been great until yesterday. And that I agree with. The situational hitting, like you alluded to earlier, Mike, they got to have sacrifice flies. They can't be swinging for the fences. That's not the only way that you can beat pitchers on the mound. So much of what Wesneski did to them was, all right, if you guys are going to hit my fastball, here comes the sweeper. I'm going to throw it out of the zone, get you to chase it. And then when you least expect it, I'm going to throw it in the zone and make you watch it. And so that was a big issue for these Halos on Sunday against the Astros. Lots more stats. I feel like we could do another by the numbers here, especially regarding the pitching, but for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and move on because we want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, with Ben Joyce out, should the Halos go out and sign this veteran reliever to help solidify the bullpen? Well, we've got a name for you to consider, and we'll get into that conversation coming right up.
NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers like you an incredible way to get in on all of the action. Right now, you can join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel, making it so easy for you to win and win some money, whether it's picking your favorite team or you're picking your favorite player, you're diving into the player props, from three-pointers to assists to steals. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on all things NBA. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for your chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com. Claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike, we got some bad news last week. Ben Joyce went on the IL. We talked about that in yesterday's show, and it had to do with the fact that after that outing where he didn't have his velo, he couldn't find the location, he didn't quite recover the way he normally does. It was like a lingering shoulder soreness. We all know that he's had shoulder issues in the past. So with that said, they brought up Michael Darrell Hicks, but he struggled in his first real outing against the Astros, and it's disappointing because he's somebody who's done well in the minor leagues. He had a great season in Double-A. He got moved up to Triple-A, struggled a bit there, and we were wondering, well, is that by virtue of the fact they're playing in Salt Lake where the ball flies around the yard? But so far, and even I would even say in spring training, Mike, not an impressive showing from Michael Darrell Hicks so far. We know the stuff is there. However, he just hasn't brought it with him at this point.
You know what it is? It's location. He's either missing bad or he's missing in the really good spots in the strike zone, and they're crushing him. And so he hasn't been able to spot his fastball. He hasn't been able to throw his secondary stuff. The batters know what's coming because he hasn't been able to set the pace or set the standard with who he's facing. And they brought him into big situations, which you're going to be brought into big situations, right? So this guy has some work to do. I think he will find it. And that's an interesting question for the end of this segment. But before we get there, John, there is conversation from everydayers about what the Angels should do. Should they keep Michael Darrell Hicks in that position, or should they go and sign another bullpen guy? Now, I was surprised when I found out that David Robertson is still available. And that's shocking to me because MLB Trade Rumors had him as the 47th ranked player on their offseason's top 50 free agents.
Yeah.
But he hasn't signed with anybody, was looking for a $10 million deal in his next contract. That's what he earned with the Mets in 23. He got 11.5 with the Rangers in 24. So, John, what's the factor that is playing into the reality that this guy is still out there and hasn't signed with a team yet?
Yeah. Well, I want to go off of what MLB Trade Rumors is suggesting. They said age may play a factor in him being unsigned. Mike, he's 40 years old.
Yeah.
He hasn't shown any signs of regression, though. And listen to this. Over 72 innings with the Texas Rangers last season. He posted a even 3 ERA. He's got a 33.4% strikeout rate. That was one of the best in his entire career and one of the best in baseball in 2024. He's got a killer cut fastball that he still uses. It's rated as one of the better cutters in the game. His walk rate was below average, and his hard hit numbers were okay. They weren't, electric or anything like that, but pretty average for a reliever. Although the hardest contact was that he limited the most was barrel numbers, right? And so that's something that is significant. He's not getting barreled up where it's that perfect trajectory of exit velocity and launch angle. And he's been pretty consistent over the last few years. So there's nothing, there's no red flags here. There's nothing out of the ordinary. It's not like he had a career year after years of being bad, or perhaps he had a bad year last year, and that's why people are hesitant. Here's what I think. Considering the question, should the Halos go out and sign David Robertson? Would they add that $10 million to the payroll. It's kind of what he's been looking for, right? As you mentioned from that MLB trade rumors article. So you kind of have to consider, is it worth going out and getting Robertson, or do they give Michael Darrell Hicks the chance to grow? What are your thoughts? And then I'll share mine.
I like Robertson. I don't know if the Angels will go and get him because it's $10 million. And already said he's going to lose $50 million to $60 million this year. So I do think that that's going to play a big factor in everything. Right or wrong, that's going to play a big factor in.
Yeah, which, by the way, I think that wasn't there a Brooksgate article or a graphic that showed how much the Angels made versus how much they spent? Like,
yeah. I have that ready for us to do an episode on. Anytime you want to do that.
All right. Yeah.
And so I think that that's going to be a major hurdle. And here's why this conversation is even out there, John, because the Angels are 9-6.
Right.
If the Angels were 6-9, if the Angels were worse than that, right? Like it probably wouldn't be a conversation, and it would be easy to say, man, let Darrell Hicks figure it out until Ben Joyce comes back.
Totally.
And that was the philosophy last season. That was hey, no expectations. Let's let these guys figure it out. This year, we've walked into 2025 with some expectations. And you've made the argument that this team could get to the playoffs. And so I think in this situation, they need to consider not having Michael Darrell Hicks just grow at the major league level. I think they need to consider either readjusting how their bullpen is going to work, or going and getting a guy, a veteran guy, a playoff guy, a winner like David Robertson to come in and to be an example to this bullpen to set the pace. And then when Ben Joyce comes back, you move some pieces around. I just don't think if this team is not in contention right now, I don't think they're even considering that. But because they are, and they want to get to the playoffs, that was Artie's edict to start the season, then I think that they have to seriously consider. And maybe Robertson doesn't want 10 million. Maybe he gets 4.
Well,
maybe
at this point,
he gets 5, right? And if that's the case, then I think it makes it easier for our team to go out and get him, even though I know money's always a big factor. Even though I know that that's frustrating, we have to, as we talk about this team, we have to consider all of those boxes, all of those categories for the Halos.
Well, and it goes back to what they said preseason. Their intention is to be competitive. And so far, they've come out of the gate. They've been competitive. You know, they have the record that they have. They also did competitive moves. I think they were very underrated. People don't think that it was enough. That's fine. You know, I still say they're going to sneak into the playoffs. This would be a competitive move, Mike. This would be putting your money where your mouth is with David Robertson. And yeah, maybe it's not 10 million because, you know, we're already into the season. He's got to have some time to, you know, stretch and stretch out and get ready for the bullpen. But also I understand age is a concern at 40 years old. Mike, I think it's relievers and starting pitchers who and DHs, right? First baseman, power hitters who become DHs. They always seem to age the best in this game. And the reason I say that is because when you have somebody like David Robertson coming out for an inning or two, it's not that much wear and tear on somebody at that age. And if his pitches are still strong, like his cutter, that's going to be a tick in his win column for him, right? That's going to be something that is in his favor. And when you think about, look around the league, like think about Kenley Jansen, 37 years old, right? And he's still doing what he's doing. Of course, he's not as good as he used to be, but so far for the Angels, he's been really good. And so that's all you can ask for. And then you think about somebody like, you know, Verlander and Scherzer, you can see that they're having a hard time staying on the mound as starting pitchers. But if they were to relieve at some point, you could see them finishing out their career as like really effective relievers, perhaps with Kershaw too. He's one of those guys who, you know, in terms of longevity can adjust his game and get out there and do his thing. You think about somebody like Jared Weaver, right? Struggled at the end of his career. You could see, you know, the things kind of ticking down in terms of his velo. He was never a hard throwing guy, but you could see the numbers ticking down and down and down over the course of his career. Same thing happened to Jeff Weaver. It was like he was here one day and gone the next. It was over for them. And so there are just some guys who don't have that longevity. But when they do have that longevity, they adjust their game. They can get into other positions on the team, like David Robertson being a reliever. Again, he's going to be somebody that despite being 40 years old, give him the one job to do he's been doing his entire career, and he's going to be pretty dang good. And so again, I'm of the belief that when you have a reliever who, despite being 40 years old, has the track record that David Robertson does, I think that would be a really great move. And again, going back to your original point, we're not having this conversation if the Angels aren't 9-6, if they are 6-9, right? So if you're going to be competitive, this is a competitive move. And I feel like it's something that would really benefit the Halos, especially in their bullpen moving forward.
Not only are the basketball playoffs getting here, but so are the hockey playoffs. And John, I'm not a fan of hockey, but I love Stanley Cup playoffs because they're just so much fun to watch. And there's no better place to get involved and to watch and to get in on all the action than with PrizePicks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, whether it's basketball, hockey, baseball, so much more, for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Here's what I'm picking for this week. This is my gift to our everydayers. Luka Doncic, I'm going to pick for more than 28 points. And Jason Tatum plays for the Celtics. I'm going to pick for more than 8 rebounds. And I called my buddy Casey, and he helped me with these picks. He's a hockey guy. And so I'm picking Connor McDavid for more than 1 goal and Austin Matthews for more than 5 shots on goal. Wouldn't have done this without Casey, so thank you for your help. I love how easy it is to set your lineup under 60 seconds, piece of cake. And if you are on PrizePicks, you're going to notice that they have really great promos like Taco Tuesday when they discount player projections 25% for even more value. The payouts are safe, they're fast, and they're secure. So download their app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Again, LOCKEDONMLB, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
Mike, some interesting news over the weekend. Caden Dana has been pitching for the Salt Lake Bees as a starter, had a great outing in his last start. He went 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, walked 2, but he struck out 9 batters in this one. There's some deeper numbers that tell a bigger story. Why don't you get into those for us?
Yeah, in the last start that Caden Dana had, he used his fastball and his slider 91% of the time. And he had a 65% whiff percentage on his slider, 11 whiffs on 17 swings. His fastball had a 36 percentage on a CSW, which is a called strike plus whiff percentage. And this was a great improvement that Caden Dana brought to that particular start, something that he's going to need to bring to the majors once he gets there. And I love that we already are starting to see some progression because his first couple of outings, majors and in minors, weren't great for Caden Dana. And even in spring, weren't great for Caden Dana. So this is a great improvement. They're obviously tweaking some things. Here's where analytics are great. They're saying, hey, use your fastball and your slider more often than you're using your other pitches. And he's getting a lot of swings and misses, 9 strikeouts. But there was one thing, John, that even before all these starts, we noticed when he was with the Angels and he was coming in for relief. And then this changed in this game as well. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, the biggest issue with Caden Dana, especially coming up to the majors last year, was his release point on his pitches. For each pitch that he has, let's say, fastball, slider, curveball, his arm angle and release point are at different spots. So, for example, I think the curveball is the one that's kind of really high above his head. The fastball is about, middle range, and the slider is a little lower than that. Mike, that's a dead giveaway for any major league hitter in MLB. And I think the reason why he had so much success last year in AA is because his stuff is good. Mm-hmm. And it's also minor league guys that he's facing. Maybe the technology isn't quite there to pick up on some of the giveaways that Caden Dana was doing. But you want to talk about tipping pitches. Usually there's a tell in how a guy moves his glove or the way he stands or what have you. But for Caden Dana, if you're facing him as a hitter and you see where his arm ends up, you're going to know immediately, oh, that's a fastball. Oh, that's a curveball. Oh, that's a slider. So that's been the biggest issue. And we actually see that in StatCast, where you can see the release point of those 3 pitches widely different, vastly different. Not that different to bozos like you and me who wouldn't be able to recognize, knuckleball or whatever. But
Right.
for professional hitters, they can pick up on that very quickly. Now, having said that, one thing I noticed, and I did my best to screen grab all of the strikeouts that he had in his last start. Mike, here are the first 4. If you're on the video side, I've got the screen grabs of Caden Dana's first 4 strikeouts. And for those on the audio side, I'll describe it for you. But essentially, it's this. If you can't tell the difference between those 4 pitches, then that's a really good thing for Caden Dana. Because in those 4 pictures, you can see that for the most part, the arm angle and the release point are relatively the same. I think that if you just stare at this picture like I have for, 5 hours, you can see, oh yeah, there's some difference there.
Yeah.
But what's significant is the arm angle and the release point of the baseball are pretty much in the same place. Now, you have to take into consideration where the camera is at the stadium and whatnot. But let me go to the second set of strikeouts I have here. More of the same, right? More of the same. You also have to consider, John, when did you actually hit the screenshot button to get these pitches? I did my best. It was really hard, but I did my best. But overall, and in general, it looks to me like Caden Dana is getting more consistent with his arm angle. He's getting more consistent with his release point. I don't know about you, Mike. I'm looking at the top left and the bottom left, and I'm like, I can see a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah.
But again, it's really hard to know if that's camera angle. But I think at the end of the day, they're all close enough and relative to each other to say this is a step in the right direction. Would you agree?
Yes. The difference in those pictures is posture, not arm slot. You can see his arm is almost hitting the same spot, but notice his shoulders. Sometimes his shoulders is a bit dipped on the left-hand side. And so that is an indication of maybe what he's throwing. That is easily fixable. It's the arm slot and where the ball is coming out at that he needed to work on. And John, over the course of those 8 photos that you put up, the slot is almost at the top of the back wall. If you want to give a measurement, if you use that as a measurement, you can see that the slot is almost exactly the same in every picture. There's going to be a little bit of nuance. And so that's a good sign. I don't know what posture does. Never played professional baseball, but I wonder if that is going to be something that he needs to adjust.
I would even say that posture issue that you identified, that might be where I screenshot the moment in the video. That could be user error. But in general, I think that this is a good indication that somebody somewhere listened to Locked On Angels and told Caden Dana, hey, bro, you got to work on that release point. No, that we joke about that, but sometimes I wonder if that's true, Mike. Sometimes I wonder if they're out there. What did Mike and John have to say today? And I'll take it. And if you want to offer us a job, the Super Halo Bros, we'll take that too. There you go.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, all season long. You can get local analysis on a national scale. Plus, my brother John is the host of those shows, and you can find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and connect with Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube, get in the comments section, doing our best to respond to you and get to your comments and address your questions and comments. Always great conversation on YouTube. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Big series tonight against the Rangers. We're going to bring the details tomorrow. And listen, we never get too high. We never get too low. We always try to be reasonable and logical. So if you're struggling with the negative fans or you're struggling with the positive fans, you'll find logic and reason right here tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Exactly. It's not just feelings and it looks like he's doing this. It looks like he's doing that. We actually back up what we say with actual stats and numbers and data because it's all out there. It's all easy for you to use. So you're not going to get any, well, I feel like you're not going to get that from us, Mike. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John and that's my brother, Mike.
And my name is Mike and that's my brother, John.
Thanks for being here, everybody. And we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
I feel like this was a good show.
Well, the numbers will tell us if it was or not. There you go. That's how it works, people.